Our second presentation here in the Soundings Theatre is by Will Minty. Will is a digital designer based here in Te Whanganui, Aotearoa, where he works as a senior designer at Indigenous Design and Innovation Aotearoa, also called IDIA. Alongside a team of passionate designers and researchers, IDIA is working to revitalise Indigenous voice and re-Indigenize Aotearoa by designing mana-enhancing products, solutions and experiences that reflect Māori worldview, embrace and promote Māori traditional knowledge, and provide value to Māori based on the self-identified needs and aspirations of Hapori Māori. Please welcome Will Minty.
Kia kunui, kia kurahi, koutou kua karupiripiri mai nei tēnei rā, tēnā koutou. Tuatahi ake, e mihi kawana ki te ahikaroa o te whenua nei, tēnā koutou. Tuarua, he nunui ngā mihi pātere atu nei ki National Digital Forum, ki ngā ringa raupa e whakatuhi ai te kaupapa nei. Wai hoki ki a ringa mihi ki te papa tongarewa, koutou kua pōwhiri mai ai i au i tēnei wā. Ai, kare rekereka ana te manakitangi tēnei rā. Tuatoru, me mihi ka tika ki ngā tangata ngākau nui ki tō tātou reo rangatira, koutou i whai taima ai ki te kōrero mo te kaupapa nei, kia pai ai te whakawhanake o te wāhi matihiko pai, kia matamata ai te reo, kia noho rangatira ai ngā whakaaro Māori anō hoki, ko te tūmanako ko te tūmanako ia, ka rangona o rātou whakaaro me o rātou wawata. I tua atu i tērā, tēnā koutou ki te hunga pīkoko, ki te aku i ngā mea e pīkautia ai ki au, mai i ngā manga i ngā tangata i tāho koha mai ki au. Me kawana ki a koutou. Tēnā koutou ko Will tuku ingoa, he uri tēnei no Aotearoa, ko Waikaraka te marae, ko Ngaitero te hapu. I'm Will. Kia ora, how you doing? It's my little mihi to everybody else who's out in the world who's brought this whole thing together. Earlier this year, I was brought in with IDIA, Indigenous Design and Innovation Aotearoa, with this opportunity to lead a series of one-to-one interviews, a number of wānanga, and on behalf of Te Papa Tongarewa, Te reo Māori, that's Archives New Zealand, and Te Puna Mātauranga National Library, to understand what it would take, alongside Georgia Gifford and Lewis Johnson, a couple of my very good friends and co-workers, what it would take to make Māori to feel welcome and that our language and our culture is valued when using online services. Still getting used to this little setup down here. So, ko te reo Māori te tātou ki te ao. The Māori language is the door to the Māori world. If that doesn't immediately make sense, my hope is that by the time that we conclude, it does. Over the past 50 years, Māori language revitalisation has seen significant milestones due to the valiant efforts of a number of mama, papa, kui and koro, who understood the importance of our reo and our tikanga, and what it would mean if this was to fade out of existence, the reti ki te moa. Efforts included the establishment of Kohanga Reo in the 1980s, the enactment of the Māori Language Act in 1987, and the introduction of kura kaupapa in the 1990s. And we've seen increased recognition, integration and adoption of te reo Māori in various sectors. Each of these initiatives continue to promote the resurgence and the growth of te reo Māori, fostering cultural identity and promoting its use in everyday Aotearoa. So to support the goal of having 1 million reo Māori speakers by 2040, Te Papa Tongarewa, Te reo Māori and Te Puna Mātauranga are continuing to deepen their commitment to Mahi Karona, the Crown's strategy for Māori language revitalisation, by increasing the visibility of Te reo Māori and Te Taonga Māori across their websites. At present, a cross-organisation digital Te reo Māori strategy just has not yet been established. And as a result, there have been inconsistent and piecemeal approaches to use, presentation, and development of te reo Māori content. So this affects the users of online services, expecting to see te reo Māori content and the potential to leave Māori feeling unwelcome and, while using these online services. We're hopeful that the insights from this research engagement will help take us one step further on this journey to reaching that audacious goal of having 1 million reo Māori speakers by 2040, and to help solidify te reo Māori as a primary language here in Aotearoa. So, as we kind of spoke about before, our main goal was to understand what makes Māori feel welcome and that our language and culture is valued when using these online services provided by these institutions. We inquired about the significance of te reo Māori to different people and their own unique relationship with the language. This often extended into conversations about their upbringing, their own learning journey or reclamation journey, and the role te reo plays in their everyday lives. We also invited people to think about which parts of an online experience should be available in te reo Māori, the qualities of the translation and underlying principles, and the presentation of te reo. And as part of these discussions, we learned of a number of opportunities to enhance the digital experience. So we collectively decided to prioritise the voices of tangata Māori due to each organisation's commitment to Māori Korona, as we spoke about earlier, and our acknowledgement of tangata Māori as the kaitiaki o te reo. And as part of this engagement, we spoke with 22 tangata Māori, including Māori tertiary students, spanning a range of ages, including rangatahi, pākeke, and kaumātua at a beginner or an intermediate level of reo proficiency. We spoke with rangatahi Māori, currently enrolled in wharekura, as well as first language speakers who grew up with te reo. We ran a number of one-to-one interviews in a wānanga accompanied by a handful of self-led activities to accommodate those who were unable to make it due to competing commitments or just due to the fact that it's sometimes challenging to travel. So, as we were talking about, there is a strong desire for our people to actively develop their understanding of te reo, their confidence kōrero, and to draw closer to their Māoritanga. However, right now there just aren't many spaces, physical or digital, for Māori to be Māori. And there are very few that outwardly communicate the value they place on our people, our language, our histories, and our culture. Those we spoke with said that they often rely on cues and indicators to guide them as to whether or not the space that they're entering is safe, welcoming, and mana enhancing. These various cues and indicators formed what we have described as an āhua Māori. So, we learned that a welcoming digital experience is underpinned by this āhua Māori. This āhua Māori expresses the value for our people, our language, our culture, and it encourages Māori to engage in ways that are authentically Māori. So, an āhua Māori comprises a combination of elements, including prominent use of te reo Māori. This includes navigations, headings, labels, content. Inclusion and promotion of kaupapa Māori such as Māori history, historical events, taonga Māori, ahureo Māori, and te ao Māori, inclusive of a Māori perspective. The addition of toi Māori such as whakaaro or ko whaiwhai, or photos and imagery depicting taonga or people engaging in uniquely Māori ways. And this can be complemented by audible elements such as waiata, sounds of te taiao, or sounds of taonga puoro. Our talk today will focus distinctly on two components that will create the most impact for Māori visiting your website: te reo Māori and the inclusion of kaupapa Māori. So those we spoke with shared their passion for te reo Māori and the significant role the language plays in developing their sense of belonging, their sense of identity, and their overall self-confidence. Regardless of their confidence to kōrero, knowledge of te reo Māori was seen to be an integral connection to their Māoritanga for themselves and for their whānau. Second language learners shared the lifelong journey that they have embarked on to reclaim their language due to generational language loss. Those of older generations described the impacts of colonisation and how the reo was not valued when they were younger. These same kaumātua have worked tirelessly to ensure that their mokopuna make their way to kura and have access to the reo and their tikanga. The prominent use and display of te reo Māori and deliberate inclusion of kaupapa Māori create the most impact and the most meaningful difference when developing inclusive digital experiences for Māori. Through these discussions, we learned there is an ever-increasing expectation for institutions to expand their translation efforts and position te reo Māori content more prominently. it became clear that we would need a practical, phased approach that aligns audience needs with organisational goals regarding the reo. This is that phased approach. You could also think about this as a maturity model, describing the 4 distinct measures of language, inclusion, and presentation. Take a look. Where do you feel your institution's website currently sits? Starting at the left, this is where the majority of digital experience developed in Aotearoa sit. This is the current state of play. Websites that sit in this space are almost entirely made up of English content. However, they might support glossing features, which enable content writers to include particular kupu Māori words into the website, and enable visitors to access the respective translation. Those that sit in phase 2. Phase 2 is a focus on bilingual experiences. So, I've jumped over. Those that have sit in phase 1 are focused on dual language headings, navigations, and labeling. Websites here are pretty straightforward in terms of what we're looking at. They also include cultural design elements and other visuals that accompany them. What we've found with this area is this is where participants believe that we already need to be. For phase 2 is what we would describe as a reo experience. So this is a simultaneous display of te reo Māori alongside English content. This is where participants believe we need to be. And moving on from that, we have phase 3, which is a focus on rūmaki reo experiences. This is the experience that first language speakers would want to be seeing. This is the future goal. And this is also the space for second language learners with a lot more proficiency. While rūmaki reo experiences were considered the ideal future by first language speakers and proficient second language speakers alike, each person we spoke to recognized the immediate value of dual language experience and the type of impact that it can make for all of us here in Aotearoa. Let's take a look at that now. So the reo rua experience is a design pattern that supports simultaneous display of te reo Māori and English content side by side. You may already recognize it. This approach is displaying bilingual content and approaching bilingual content is rapidly becoming more and more commonplace in physical spaces, such as galleries, all across the country. And it takes cues from the bilingual language principles developed by Te Puni Kōkiri and Te Taurawhiri Te Reo Māori. This design pattern is made up of a few key components that make it distinct and effective. Dual language headings and navigation elements are designed to be visually distinguished, with reo Māori supported by its English equivalent. Additionally, larger, more substantive blocks of content are presented side by side, with te reo Māori content positioned on the left and English content following, positioned there on the right. So there are a number of reasons that this design approach was preferable for proficient speakers of te reo Māori, as well as those at the beginning of their learning journey. This design approach communicates deliberate prioritization and appreciation of te reo through intentional elevation and increased exposure to the language. The prominent display and visual distinction of the reo encourages readers to engage with Māori first. It invites those that are curious about the language or the culture the opportunity to draw closer to te ao Māori. It caters to te reo Māori speakers of varying levels of familiarity, confidence, and understanding. And it supports learning and reclamation of reo Māori by providing people with an opportunity to test and apply their knowledge of the language, as well as the chance to discover new words, new sentence structures, and new ways of thinking. First language speakers and second language speakers with a greater grasp of te reo supported the reo rua display to help support those on their learning journey. However, rūmaki reo experiences were most preferable as a fully immersive reo Māori experience enables them to maintain whakaaro Māori without disruption from English content. As indicated by the results of the recent census, we continue to see perpetual growth in the number of reo Māori speakers across the country. With this in mind, it's important that we make design and development decisions that lay the foundations to enable this future. So we've discussed the amount of reo and how to best present it. You might already have a website that supports dual language headings and navigation. So where should you and your organisation begin to focus your translation efforts next? So according to those we spoke to, right now it's important to focus translation efforts on kaupapa Māori, at least in the very first instance. This includes writings about Māori history, our people, our taonga, and te ao Māori. Ultimately, anything that happened to or for or by Māori should be priority. When writing, we can choose to begin with a whakaaro Māori, starting with te reo Māori before translating to English. We can take the opportunity to introduce a Māori perspective to Aotearoa history, which may currently be told from a predominantly Pākehā view. And that by incorporating this perspective, we can provide a more interesting and enriched experience for Māori audiences, which convey the respect and the value to te ao Māori, Māori history, and Māori viewpoints. And lastly, you can make your educational resources available in te reo Māori to promote the language in schools across the country. Those we spoke to highlighted the importance of educators and the essential role they play in promoting te reo Māori, as well as recentering histories and narratives regarding te ao Māori. And it's important that they have high-quality resources to support them to achieve this. So today I spoke of the importance of an āhua Māori and how crucial it is when designing a welcoming and mana-enhancing experience for Māori accessing your online services. We learned that an āhua Māori is made up of 4 components: te reo, kaupapa Māori, Māori imagery and photography, as well as audible elements such as waiata, sounds of te taiao, and sounds of taonga puoro. And that what makes these distinct components so important is that each one enables Māori to see ourselves and see our Māoritanga as being valued as part of this experience. An āhua Māori communicates that this space is for Māori too, and it invites us to engage as Māori. We also heard of the increasing expectation for institutions to expand translation efforts to position te reo Māori content more prominently using the reo design pattern, simultaneously displaying te reo Māori alongside English. And I touched on how this promotes the language and provides this opportunity to support people in their learning and reclamation of the reo, as well as testing and applying that knowledge in practice. And we also heard of the ideal future, fully immersive reo Māori experiences, and a phased approach to achieving this. So let's take a moment to think about your own organisation's website experience. What is your organisation currently doing to ensure a digitally inclusive experience for Māori? And equipped with what you've just heard, what else are you prepared to do? So there are a few things we can do to create a more equitable digital experience for Māori. We can begin by increasing the amount of te reo Māori content on our websites and ensuring that it's displayed prominently and proudly. We can choose to showcase kaupapa Māori and increase access to content that is relevant to Māori. We can focus our translation efforts on kaupapa Māori and education resources first, simultaneously promoting the kaupapa, the language, and encouraging a broader understanding of our shared histories in schools across the country. We can also begin experimenting with the reo design pattern and begin laying the foundations to support the rūmaki experiences of the future. Ko te reo Māori te tātou ki te ao. Te reo offers us a very valuable lens and a distinctive way of seeing and even accessing our world. When you increase the amount of te reo Māori you present on your website, you communicate the value that you place on our culture, our reo, and our people. You create another space for Māori to be Māori. And this is yet another opportunity for us all to open the door and draw closer to te ao Māori. Thanks for listening. Mihi kawana ki a koutou. And if you have any pātai, just flick them my way.
Thank you so much. Should we take a seat?
Sure, Bob.
After you? You want to take that? I'll take that one. Ngā mihi nui, thank you very much, Will. So many exciting things going on. We've got some questions in Slido. I wanted to start it off with, you spoke about the 3 different phases of implementing this. Is there any work happening at that sort of like phase 3 level at the moment that we can like look towards?
that we're involved in currently, not so much, I would say. I think a lot of organisations are in the space where they're trying to get from dual language navigation and headings to this point where we're providing a lot more content for Māori. I think it's not a conversation around, does it need to happen or do we want it to happen? It's more about like, how do we get there and how do we feel reassured about that? So I'm seeing a lot more people kind of in that space, probably more so than getting to the rumaki reo. You will see a lot of websites for kura kaupapa and things like that. They're definitely reo first, but that's really about what they're trying to achieve. It would be kind of out of it if they didn't do that. So, yeah. But yeah, largely speaking, broadly speaking, yeah, very much in that kind of phase 2 space is where people are trying to get to.
Sure thing. We're going right in with a very technical question. So we have side-by-side bilingual layout, and that makes sense on a desktop, but someone's wondering about things increasingly look like this.
I love whoever asked this question. So this was actually part of the testing and part of the engagement as well. So we started with a mobile-first approach. That's obviously important in this day and age. Yeah, so how would that work? So it's really it's still a stacking game per se. We've got a couple of people who are exploring different mechanisms as to how we can best navigate that, particularly when you've got larger amounts of content and you might have to scroll a long way to get to it. So there's a couple of things there that we're exploring at the moment and testing with people.
Next question that's come in, I will acknowledge one of them is just amazing presentation, which we're very grateful for. It's not a question though, no, I'm kidding. So someone wants to know who does the translations for this work, and they want to know if AI could play a role.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was waiting on that. So who would do the translations for your organizations? Well, I mean, to me, it's important to invest in it. If it's valuable to your organization, if it makes a difference for your organization, then you should be putting money into that. And it's probably not AI. As somebody who's learning Māori as a second language, I'm kind of at the point now where even I can kind of see through the BS of a bad translation. So yeah, I think it's important to invest in those people. There are people who are licensed. They've been putting in all this energy for years. If it's worth something to you, you should pay them.
Absolutely. I think that is probably about all we have time for.
Goodness.
But fantastic, Mahi. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Will Minty, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll say with respect.